Uh, I'm thankful to DST and Vigyan Prasar for inviting me to this workshop. Dr. Arora, Dr. Rashmi, Dr. Bharat Bhushan, and all my young friends who are here to learn a little bit about science communication. Communication is one of the skills that serves us all through our life. But then why is it that we are talking particularly about the science communication? As Dr. Arora and also Dr. Sharma pointed out, the temper of the public is very important for the progress of the society and the country. It is not that we want everyone to become a scientist in the society, but we want everyone to have a scientific temper. And this is not possible unless they understand a little bit about the method of science. We don't want them to imbibe all the information about science, that is too much. But we want them to become logical. We want them to feel the excitement of science. And there is another very important aspect, and that is the society creates and follows role models. If they learn about science, if they learn about scientific temper, if they learn about the scientific activities, they will learn to respect science as well as the scientists. And that is how role models are created and people will start following them. Otherwise, in a society where only it's the cricket stars, there is nothing wrong with them. But if it's only cricket stars and film stars who are the role models for the people because media has created them,
Sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir. Uh,
yeah,
are you sharing any presentation, sir?
not yet. It will take a few seconds.
Okay, sir. Just okay. Sir. Thank you.
So I'll be starting my PPT now. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Just put it in the full screen mode, sir. It is visible.
Yeah. So I'll be talking about how to write science. Now, as I said, that communication, whether it be writing or be speaking, they are skills which one requires and acquires from the childhood. But many of us who have been in science know how to write for a scientific journal, but we don't know how to communicate with common people. And this is because a common person does not understand science so much. During the lecture, the scope will be, we will discuss a little bit about the demands made by special nature of science, the challenges posed in communicating, care needed in writing so as to avoid ambiguity, the art of exemplifying, and then we'll discuss a little bit about what should we write about. I'll just give some hints about the differences between print, radio, and audiovisual media, like television and films. Some advice, some tips, some references. And also, I would like to tell you that this is just one of experience. Of course, you will be having it quite a few times during the course of these workshops. But in this short period, I will only be able to make a little bit cautious, a little bit careful in the writing, and the rest you will pick up from your experience. Science is important for the society, and people should know that. I'll quote the famous science writer and fiction writer, Isaac Asimov. He said that a public that doesn't understand how science works can too easily fall prey to those ignoramuses who make fun of what they don't understand, or to the sloganeers who proclaim scientists to be mercenary warriors of today and the tools of military. So he told us that if people don't understand science, they will either be afraid of science or will treat it as something out of this world or something godly. Neither is a very good situation because it should not be total respect and admiration alone. People should be critical, and that is what scientific temper teaches them about. What is special about science? In science, we are dealing with unfamiliar objects. We are dealing with shapes which one may not have come across anytime. We are dealing with dimensions which are literally unimaginable. We deal with objects which are submicrons, which are in nanometer like a coronavirus. We are dealing with objects which are hundreds of light years like huge galaxies. And also to understand science sometimes requires some background knowledge, which everyone doesn't have. And then the material available on science is available usually in the English language or other languages, and not so much in our own regional languages. Now you can see here in these pictures Of course, the top one is a caricature of the COVID-19 virus or coronavirus popularly. And the figure which you see at the bottom, this is of Doricifera. This is an animal which is about a millimeter in size. This is found at the depth of Mediterranean Sea, at a place where it's completely dark and there is no oxygen found in the water around this. Now, why I'm showing you these things is when you are talking about science to people, you may have need to describe such strange objects whose dimensions sometimes, as I said, can be unimaginable. For example, the coronavirus is in nanometers, 100 or 80 nanometers or so, and this object is a few millimeters. But now, if you want to describe that, it requires very, very special skill. There is another thing. Very often we write and we imagine that the reader is having certain background in science, and this assumption is not correct. Very often we make very loose statements which the reader can understand if he is from or she is from that particular field, but cannot understand if that person is from arts background or if he comes from a different discipline. Now here in the cartoon, you can see this assistant of the professor tells him that you needed plasma. It's here, right, in a bottle, whereas the professor is of plasma physics, and he's talking about the plasma, which is the fourth state of matter other than solid, liquid, and gas. So this communication gap can be between people who are from scientific disciplines. Then you can imagine how huge this gap can be between professor and between somebody who is less educated. Also, science shows us surprising facts. If it's a new field, unless we are very clear in articulating it, we will not be able to give a clear picture to the audience. So it's very important to be very meticulous and very careful. There are many options for writing for print medium. It can be magazines, newspapers. Similarly for radio, which is an audio medium, or which only uses voice and sounds. And there are films and documentaries. Vigyan Prasad, as you know, makes a lot of them, which all are focused on science. But then there are many formats, many genres, which you can use. It can be in the form of quiz or book review or film review. It can be about a mission, which can be about live telecast of, for example, a launching of the satellites. It can be documenting some important experiments, some expeditions, some processes, some meetings. Some poem-based programs can be there. There can be musical programs. There can be about social or societal impact of science and technology. There can be social messages. And when you write social messages, your language has to be very catchy. For example, I wrote a slogan for this COVID-19 mission, and I said, साबुन आपको महंगा लगता है, साबुन महंगा है, लेकिन आपकी जिंदगी उससे भी महंगी है. साबुन से हाथ धोइए, जिंदगी से हाथ धोने से अच्छा है. Now, if you make a catchy slogan, people pick it up and remember the message. Similarly, you can write about or speak about or telecast about rational thinking. You can talk about anti-superstition thing. I am basically a scientist, as Dr. Bharat has told, basically a physics person who worked in the Institute of Paleobotany, which was later Institute of Paleosciences. And I have worked in archaeology, I have worked in paleoclimate. Even though initially I did my PhD in analyzing moon rocks. So what I can tell you from my experience in somewhat different fields is that people in one particular field do not know much about the other field. Therefore, when you are writing for whichever medium, you should appreciate this fact that their backgrounds may be different. So you have to go by the lowest common denominator and try to explain things. So it's also important to pick up your subject. If you pick up things which people watch in their everyday life, then they would be curious. For example, they may be curious why the sky was reddish last evening. If there is something based on science which saves them money, for example, energy efficient gadgets, they would like to learn about it, because a common man is not so much interested in AC or DC, but he wants to know Does the new refrigerator save him, say, 200 rupees per month on the electricity bill? If this is helpful to their beauty, their health, they would be interested. If this provides them entertainment, they would be interested in learning about it. Similarly, if it makes their life more comfortable. For example, if you tell them how without an AC they can make their house cooler during summer and warmer during winter, they would be interested. Similarly, if they have a dream how to have a good skin, how to have a better health, how not to allow their hair to grow gray or white, they would be interested in learning about it. So first thing is something which is beneficial to them, which is entertaining to them, which saves them money, and at the same time, which makes their temper scientific. The last one could be taken as a societal duty, and you should all be interested in picking up such topics which interest them. Now, when you start to write, whether this is for a print medium, whether this is for radio, or whether this is for TV or films, you have to first think, what is your purpose of writing that? Do you want to educate them? Do you want to inform them? Do you want to influence them? Do you want to change their attitude? Or there is a special message which you want to pass on to them? And that will decide which medium you choose. You can go for the print medium, you can go for radio, radio or television, and even in them, the format that you choose and the language which you choose will be decided by the basic purpose, whom you want to reach, and what is the purpose of your program. You must think about your target audience, children or housewives or the educated people or the common man, the farmers or the laborers or somebody else. And here, all through the communication, even though we say it's the sentiments which are more important, but it's a language which you use to communicate to them. I'll just give a small quote from Alice in the Wonderland. Humpty Dumpty said, when I use a word, I mean just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is, said Alice, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, which is to be master? That is Paul. We have to have good command over language. We should understand the subtle difference between similar words, and then we will become more powerful communicators. I'll give you this example of Santa Banta. Banta was the best blacksmith in the town. सबसे अच्छा लोहार था. He had a new apprentice, and Banta, the teacher, told the apprentice Santa that strike with the hammer when I nod. And when he nodded his head, Santa struck with the hammer. And now Santa is the best blacksmith on the town because Banta forgot to tell him that strike with the hammer, but did not tell clearly where to hit. So Santa happened to hit on his head, and Banta was dead. What I'm trying to convey is when you are giving technical information or instructions, it's very important to give the instructions in full. You skip a small detail and the result can be disastrous. When we write about anything, the first thing we want is that the reader or the listener or the viewer should get a very clear image of what we are talking about. So he should be able to visualize the whole thing, how big it is, what is the shape, what is the color, what are the special features. For example, in case of coronavirus, we know there are these protruding things on its surface, which we call spikes made of protein. Because unless we give them some idea of the size, they will not be able to appreciate it fully. For example, inside the ocean, on the bottom of the ocean, and it's dispersed in the ocean water, you have very small objects which can be 1/10 or even 100th or even 1/10,000th part of a millimeter. You can have their huge whales which can be tens of meters. So unless you give an idea of the size, people won't be able to appreciate the beauty and the size of the object, and the visualization would be incomplete. So as I said, inside the ocean, for example, you find these very small micron-sized objects. There you can see nanoplanktons, which are very small. But when you talk of a big nanoplanktons, it would not be even a micron. But when you talk of a small galaxy, that small galaxy can be so big that it will take you 300 years to cross it. So, or if it's a Milky Way galaxy, it will take you 100,000 years to cross it. So a small galaxy can be tremendously huge, and a huge microfossil can be very small. So when you are talking about something scientific, you must give the readers or listeners or viewers an idea of the size of the object. Then we should be very clear in the structure of the sentence. When we construct a sentence, we should not be happy just by writing it once. We should revise it. I'll give you some examples. After struggling for an hour, the veterinary doctor and the animal were face to face. Looks okay? It's not, because it doesn't make clear who was struggling. Was it the doctor who was struggling, or is it the animal who was struggling? Therefore, whenever you have this kind of sentences where you say, after struggling for an hour, you should be careful and make sure that you are communicating precisely. Similarly, after orbiting the moon for several days, the scientists decided to drop the probe on the lunar surface. Now, who was orbiting? Was it the satellite or the spacecraft, or were scientists also inside that? This sentence does not make it clear, whereas it should. Sometimes we write sentences which are ambiguous and which don't convey the things clearly. These are examples from a BBC book. They have given some examples. They're not from science, but a similar situation can arise when we write on science. For the second time in 6 months, a prisoner at Daham jail has died after hanging himself in his cell. Now, how can a prisoner hang himself twice? So the sentence has not been constructed carefully enough. A suicide bomber has struck again in Jerusalem. If it's a suicide bomber, it cannot happen second time. A walker crossing Tower Bridge spotted the body. It's understood he was about 5.5 and Afro-Caribbean. The body was of a person who was Afro-Caribbean and was about 5.5 feet, or was it the passerby who was of this size and of this appearance? This sentence does not make it clear. And similarly, in writing about science also, we can make such mistakes. This is from journal Science, which you all know about. The title, if it says, An Ancient Carbon Mystery, what do we make out of it? Is it mystery of the ancient carbon? Or is it the carbon mystery which is ancient? That means the carbon is mysterious and it has been known for many years. Therefore, this is an ancient carbon mystery. Or what is mysterious is how old this carbon is. So when we write, particularly the captions or the titles, we have to be extra careful. Now, this is from a very, very popular newspapers. In fact, the paper claimed to have a higher circulation in the world. And the caption says, it's in Hindi, I hope everybody would understand that. It says, बापू भवन की बिल्डिंग से कूदकर आत्महत्या करने के बाद पहुंचे लोग. Now you can imagine that if somebody has committed suicide, that person is not capable of reaching the base of the building and looking at the body. So what they wanted to say was, बापू भवन की बिल्डिंग से कूदकर आत्महत्या करने वाले व्यक्ति को देखने के लिए पहुंचे लोग. But what they have conveyed is something very funny, very hilarious. Now, this is where our common sense saves us and we are able to get the exact meaning. But suppose it was something in science, the result could have been disaster. Similarly, we should be very particular about punctuation and syntax. Comma, for example, we usually ignore, but this is very important. Look at these two sentences. A woman without a man is nothing. The meaning is clear that a woman without her man is nothing. Now, change the position of the comma. A woman without her man is nothing. It's a completely different sentence and conveys something completely differently. If you take an example from Hindi, अम्ल को टेस्ट ट्यूब में से बीकर में जाने से रोको, मत जाने दो, नहीं तो भयानक विस्फोट हो सकता है. That means our effort should be, we should stop the acid from entering from test tube to the beaker. We should stop. Look at the next sentence. अम्ल को टेस्ट ट्यूब में से बीकर में जाने से रोको मत. Don't stop. Otherwise, there can be an explosion. नहीं तो भयानक विस्फोट हो सकता है. Now, just by changing the placement of comma, something we treat as something very trivial, even the placement of comma can completely reverse the meaning of the sentence. So even these small things are very important. And when you are writing for radio, I would advise that you make these comma and full stop or dash or hyphen very, very prominent, so that you don't miss them when you are speaking and your attention is more on speaking than reading. So we should not confuse the reader or the listener. Another important problem we face when writing about science is, I have been writing about on magazines, I have been writing in encyclopedia and also for newspapers and for radio and television. And what I find sometimes is a challenge is the correct term for an English technical. You look up, there is a standard dictionary published by Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, CSTT. There are very good books, but sometimes you will find that the Hindi term or the regional term, even for an original English term, is rather difficult, sometimes more difficult than the original English term. So I think what you should do in this case is, particularly for radio or television, use the English term also, explain the meaning, but at the same time also use the Hindi term. Sometimes Hindi terms are very effective, very communicative. For example, one may not understand barometer, but any Hindi-speaking person would understand what is a dab mapi. Similarly, there are many other words where the Hindi words or the regional word communicates the meaning very carefully. So it's good to use those terms. But in higher science, sometimes there are equivalent words which are very difficult to understand. So don't hesitate in using the original English term also, and English Hindi term also, or the regional term also, and explain the meaning. Sometimes we write sentences where the meaning doesn't become clear. Iron is assimilated better with fat than calcium. This sentence does not make it clear. It can have two different meanings to the reader. Iron is assimilated better when taken with fat than when taken with calcium. And the second meaning can be assimilation of iron when taken with fat is better compared that of calcium taken with fat. So you see, sometimes it's better to elaborate a little bit than to leave it vague. And sometimes it's better to split the sentence into shorter sentences than writing a long winding sentence, which we sometimes tend to do in the research publications. When I write for research publication, I write in a different manner because my reader is a very, very educated person, and he knows and has a background in the subject. But when I'm writing for a common man, he may not have studied science at any stage. So that's why I always emphasize that please understand your audience and write according to audience. Here is another example. We can see red and also green bulbs here, whose switching off eliminates the possibility of explosion. Now, the reader can get confused. Suppose this is a technical manual, and the reader gets confused whether that person should switch off only the green bulbs, because whose comes immediately after green bulbs. So should the reader switch off green bulbs, or should the reader switch off red as well as green bulbs? So one should be very careful in writing, and he can write, switching off both the types of bulbs will eliminate the possibility of explosion, or switching off the green switches will eliminate the possibility of explosion. Because that person does not know what the consequence can be. And it's not only we, the Indian people, who make such mistake. This is an advertisement from a British newspaper which reads, of course, in this case, we can sense what the advertiser wants to say. But when it's science, it can be confusing. Here it says, our laboratory requires a contaminated land scientist. That sounds funny because we don't want a land scientist who is contaminated. Instead, actually, we want a scientist, a land scientist, or rather a scientist who specializes in contaminated land studies. So you can see that if we are not careful enough, we could be conveying a completely different meaning from what we intended. So similarly, in science, an expert might understand, but the common man may not. And as I just said, the punctuation, the syntax, everything is important. Now, when you are, for example, interviewing a person, in Avsar, you'll be writing articles. But later, maybe there is an opportunity for you where you are asked to interview some very senior scientist who could be a Nobel laureate, who could be a Bhatnagar awardee, or who could be president of some big academy or director general of some institution. Now, when asking a question, we have to frame the question in a very, very clear manner. For example, if I ask a question to you, which is, do you generate liquid nitrogen for your use? If yes, how and where do you use it? Now, you see here, we are asking in the first form, you want to know the details only for the storage. First thing you ask it, do you generate liquid nitrogen for your use? The answer would be yes or no. Then you ask, if yes, that is, if you generate liquid nitrogen, how and where do you use it? How do you use it and where do you store it? This is different from asking the second form of question, where you are asking, do you generate liquid nitrogen for use? Of course, the answer would be yes or no. And if the answer is yes, if yes, how? You are also asking here, how do you generate liquid nitrogen? And then you are asking, where do you store it? So just by inserting one more comma, you have changed the scope of the question. So when you ask a question, you should very carefully draft it because your answer cannot be better than the question. Similarly, if you say, fluorinated gases are sometimes used as substitute for ozone depleting substances. You see, I have used an hyphen between ozone and depleting. Fluorinated gases are sometimes used as substitutes for ozone depleting substances like CFCs, HDFCs, and HCFCs, and halons. Now, all these things, these are substitutes or these are fluorinated gases. This can create confusion, so you should construct this sentence very carefully and place words at the right. Now, another example of tardy writing can be, if you write 100% pollution free, or do you write 100% pollution free? The meanings are different. In the first case, you may be meaning that in this place or here, the pollution is completely free. You don't have to pay for it and you get the pollution. In the second form of question, you see pollution free, that means free from pollution. In speaking, sometimes by changing the emphasis, you can make the meaning clear, but when you are writing, you don't have the freedom of the facial expression or gesticulation or in some other way by changing your sound or by spacing them in a proper way. So similarly, available free and available freely, they have different meanings. Some herbs, some valuable herbs may be available free in the Himalayan terrain, which means you can go there, pick them up without paying anything. But they will not be available much. You have to maybe walk for several kilometers when you can find another shrub, the same thing. But if they are available in a departmental store, maybe you will find hundreds of packets, which means they are available freely, but you have to pay for them they are not available free. You see, saying free and saying freely have two different meanings. Now, another example, okay, this I can skip. I had talked to you about the technical terminology, scientific and technical terminology, which you will frequently refer when you are translating them. Now, when you find two words for the same original word, you will be able to pick up the right word if you know a little bit about the subject. For example, if you take a word cell, it will have two meanings given, kosh and kosh. The first one is as in Shabdakosh or Koshagar, and, and the second one is like Kosh or Koshika in biology. So you have, if you know the subject, you will be able to pick the right word. Otherwise, you will not be able to pick the right. Sometimes we leave our translation work to a translator, a professional translator, who may be a BA with English and Hindi and MA with Hindi or English. When you assign the translation to such a person, it might happen, and it indeed happened. I'm not joking, this is a serious thing. Keynote lecture was translated as Kunji Tippani Vyakhyan. Now you know the situation, the funny this situation becomes. So if you are getting translation done by a translator, a professional translator, please look at the translation yourself very carefully and make sure that the exact meaning is being conveyed. Sometimes you require translation, and if you are doing it, please go for sense translation and not for the literal translation, because if you do literal translation, the meaning will not be clear. Sometimes you may be writing about your own paper, sometimes you may be writing about someone else's research paper, and that is, you are doing a science communicator or a person, a science writer. Now, I'll give you one interesting example. Suppose you read somewhere that 33% of the mice, 33% of the mice used in the experiment were cured by the test drug. 33.3% of the test population was unaffected by the drug and remained in the moribund state. Actually, what they did not write is that the third mouse got away. They also did not tell you that only the experiment was done only on 3 mice, one of which was cured, one of which died, and the one of which escaped. So the data is very important. If you are interpreting someone else's data, then please look at the original data and understand. Another very common thing in popular science writing is we give examples, similes. Now in science, unfamiliar shapes, as I said in the beginning, unfamiliar sizes, unfamiliar objects are very common. Your reader or your listener or viewer does not know what you are talking about. Besides that, the concept in science can be abstract. अस्थूल हो सकते हैं. Sizes can range from submicron, from nanometers to light years. The shapes can be very strange, which you have never seen before, or your reader has never seen before. For example, if you want to explain to somebody how is a plasma which is confined inside a fusion reactor, you have to tell them. People tell for example, in an American book or an English book, they will say that the plasma is confined in a toroidal shape. Toroidal shape I have shown you at the top. In Indian books also, when they write, Indian authors write, they write this is toroidal a shape. I can assure you, 90% readers do not understand what is meant by toroid or a torus or a toroidal shape. Tell them this is somewhat like an inflated tube of a car. Or if you tell you that this is something like a vada, which has a round cross section, which is like a ring in size and which is hollow in the center, then they will understand it better. So when you exemplify, please don't pick up the similes from the original American or English book. Instead, look around and find a simile which is better. Another catch in giving examples is, unless we specify in which respect the attribute of similarity is there, the reader will be confused. If you tell that this item or this object is like a football. The reader does not know whether that item is round like a football. Is it bouncy like a football? Is it of two colors like many footballs? Is it made of a leather-like stuff or leather like a football? Or this is something which people can play around with. So unless you mention in which respect the similarity is suggested, your target audience will not understand what you are talking about. So we should be specific in suggesting the similarity. Similarly, sometimes if you are a physicist, we write this resistance is better. Now, reader does not know when you say a better resistance, it does not necessarily means a bigger or a resistor of higher value. Sometimes, depending upon the circuit, lower resistance is better than the higher resistance. Similarly, a condenser of lower value may be better than a capacitor or condenser of higher value. So these are things where you have to be very careful and remember that your reader is not an expert. When you say for a spaceship material, higher melting point, higher strength, but lower density material is required. When you say better, it just does not mean anything because the better density, the melting point may be higher, the strength may be higher, hardness may be higher, but density should be lower. So just saying higher material does not mean anything. Similarly, copper may be very good as a conductor in an ox, but if you put it inside a toilet in some item, then it will get corroded, it will get oxidized, and it is not very good for a humid environment, but this is very good as a material for electrical wire. So we should specify in what respect this is better. Or like this example, the people across the discipline understand things in different ways. For example, this plasma physicist, the professor wanted plasma. So a person who was, for example, an assistant or a person who was as a Group D employee, he brings a bottle with plasma, which is a term in biology, and it refers to a component of our blood. But the plasma in physics is very different from plasma in biology. Now, when you write, what you have in your mind is whether you are writing for a book or a magazine, newspaper, you are writing for radio, or you are writing for television. We don't have much time. I'll just sketchily, I will touch this subject. Look at this paragraph. On hearing the sound of marching army, the journal immediately was on alert. He whispered in the ears of the king, "This is enemy." The king was scared. His heart was thumping, ears became red, and stomach started turning. All sorts of ideas started flashing in his mind. Did someone backstab? The king was neither a warrior nor a strategist. He was not capable of taking decisions under difficult circumstances. Now, if this paragraph were part of a story, everything is fine. You have written everything, and the reader would understand everything. Now think, if you have written as a part of a radio or a television script, then this is not very good writing. Why? This is because on the radio, when there has to be a sound of marching army, you have to write that in the back, the sound will be of marching army. Nobody will be speaking this part. The journal immediately was on alert. How do you convey on the radio that the journal was on alert? There has to be some articulation, some word whispered by the journal, which tell the audience that the journal is on alert. He whispered in the ears of the king or somebody. The journal whispers in the ears of the king, "This is enemy." Now, you have to make sure that the audience becomes clear that it's the journal who's speaking and he's whispering because that is the way he will sound, but in whose ears he is whispering, this does not become clear by this writing when you use it for the radio. So on the radio, you have to show it in a different way. Similarly, for television, it becomes somewhat easier because if the king's king is afraid, you can show it by the expression. But when you say his heart was thumping, I think it will be very difficult to show even on a screen. Forget about radio, that the heart was thumping. His ears become red and stomach started turning. You cannot show it on a screen or on a radio. Writing for a magazine, this is fine. But when you write it for a radio or television, you have to show how you are going to convey to the audience, the target audience, the listener or the viewer, how these things are happening. So in writing for radio or TV, you have to completely change your narration. Sometimes, as a science communicator, if you have written a paper or if you are expert in a particular field, you may be invited to the radio station or a TV station for talking about some subject. How you go there, don't rush to the radio station running and panting and puffing. Reach there well in time. I would even advise to a new person, please go and familiarize yourself with the studio 1 day or 2 days in advance. Just go and visit and familiarize. Your nervousness would be less. At a given time, please reach there 15 minutes or half an hour. Give a margin for traffic problems, particularly if this is a live broadcast on telecast. Once you reach there, sit comfortably, go with the script. In your script, you mark with pause marks where you have to stop, where you have to change the sentence. Don't continue the same sentence on next page. If the sentence is not getting completed on one page, don't start it. Start a new sentence on the new page. Be in a calm state of mind. Read your script several times in advance. Using your mobile camera stopwatch, you can find out if you have been asked to give a talk of 7 or 8 minutes, aim at 7.5 minutes. Sometimes when we go to the studio, we become a little bit nervous and we start speaking very fast and the time becomes less. So you have to practice 2 or 3 times. Make sure that you complete your script in around the same time period which has been allotted. Avoid paper rustling. Either use thick paper and write on it, or you can staple this paper on cards. Typically, a 7 or 8 minute script means approximately 4 foolscap pages written in handwriting. If this is typed, then it may be a little less than 4 pages. If you are an expert in your field, if you are talking about your subject, then it's okay. But if this is about some other field, then you should be careful and check every fact very, very meticulously. If this is about your own field, then you should take care and make sure that there are no terms which will not be understandable to the audience. You have to explain them very simply in your text. In other words, the knowledge bank should be full, your communication skills should be full, and that will make you a good science communicator. Which topics do you talk about? If this is something which has happened very recently, if this is a volcanic eruption which happened recently, if this is a storm, if this is a cyclone which happened very recently or is going to happen very soon, talk about it. People will listen with it. If this is about corona, which is already a problem, then people would love to listen to about. If this is about some other natural phenomena like change in the color of the sky, if this is a meteorologist, then people might like to know that it was very cloudy, but it did not rain. If you are a biologist, people would like to know how effective plasma therapy is. If you are a physicist and you are talking to children, the children might like to know where do the stars vanish during the daytime. They might like to know why does a star shine. If these are very young children, they might like to know why does night happen, or what happens when the sun is facing us or we are facing the sun. Why the day is of about 365 years. So whatever your subject, choose your subject depending upon the audience. If this is very young students, please deal with the very simple subject which are visible to the people, like colors. Why the flowers colored? What happens to the flowers during the night time? What do butterflies and honeybees do? When you are talking to a little elderly people, you can talk to them about role of butterflies or honeybees for the environment and so on. Similarly, when you talk to experts, your language will be different. So these are things. Similarly, I'll just cite one example. For example, dolphins. People said that they are blind because of contamination of the Ganges water near Patna. But then we explored and found out that they were born blind. So there is another role for the science communicator to uh, to miss to bust the myths or hoaxes, or when somebody says that Mars will appear as big and red as moon tonight. Please tell them this cannot happen. You can talk about science in the ancient India, but I would advise that please talk about that science which is documented. Aryabhat's work is very well documented. Explain it to people, they will have a sense of respect. The mathematics by Brahmagupta, the metallurgy, the architecture. But whenever you paint scientists, please paint them as real people and don't glamorize it. Don't say that Newton found the gravitational principle just because he was sitting under a tree, or Kekule discovered the ring structure of benzene just because he was dozing off, and so on. So when you are writing about print medium, for radio or television, write differently, whether it be radio or the television or anything. When you write for films, you have to describe the scene completely so that it becomes clear to a non-scientist director. A story and a script are different. They are not the same. Just follow a very simple format for writing for television or film. First, write a brief introduction and then specify a short number, whether this is indoor or outdoor, that is exterior or interior. What kind of camera view is there? You can mention. It's not always appreciated, but you can mention. Then you can also suggest something about the camera movement if this is important from the science angle. And then you use these 5 columns, and under them you write the time, which is from 00 second to 02 seconds. What is happening in the scene? Then what is the voiceover or the dialogue? It is there. In the 4th column, you write if there is any music, and you can keep the 5th column for a remark. So time, scene, voice or sound, then music, and remark. Follow this simple 5-column principle for writing a script. There are a lot of references. You can go to websites of USGS, US Geological Survey, to the NASA website, Sky and Telescope, ISRO website, insaindia.res.in, which is of Vigyan Prasad. You can consult Wikipedia, but remember, Wikipedia is not very reliable. You can get tens of thousands of books free from Project Gutenberg. There are a lot of encyclopedias available. There are a lot of books about the language. In fact, almost infinite books are there. Choose them, learn from them, and write carefully. In India itself, we have a lot of things. We are not an ordinary country. You will find a lot of subjects, a lot of topics, a lot of history. By talking about them, you can explain science to people and try to make their temperament scientific. So all the best. If there are any questions, any queries, please feel free.
Thank you very much, sir. It's quite interesting, and we got comments also. A very informative session. So I tried to reply to some technical queries which has been received on Q&A section. Some queries were there. Can we write the story in narrative manner, or a writer, can they narrate their story?
Yes, I mean, if I don't know whether they are asking specifically about the Avsar, but if this is for a magazine, they're asking about the Avsar only.
Yes.
Then as long as your scientific points are not compromised, I think you can choose a format But very often what happens is sometimes when you write in a manner which is like a personal story, there is too much of personal account rather than the science part. That is something you have to be very careful about. And one more thing I can mention is that if, for example, if you are from chemistry or physics, we so often talk about ratios. We say that these two elements are in the ratio of 1:1 in this compound or in this material. Now we have to be careful. When we say 1:1, we talk about the ratio of one atom molecule of hydrogen or one molecule of another element, or we're talking about 1 gram of one element and 1 gram of another element. You will understand perhaps it better if I tell you that if somebody were to offer you a vegetable, and the vegetable is made of grapes and pumpkin, kaddu or uh, angur, and he says that this sabzi is has kaddu and angur in 1:1 ratio, what would you understand? Does it mean one kaddu, one pumpkin, and one grape? Does it mean 1 unit of kaddu and 1 unit of angur, or does it mean 1 kilogram of kaddu or 1 kilogram of grapes? The two things are completely different. Similarly, in case of a combination of elements, whether you are talking of atomic ratio, you are talking of volume ratio, you are talking of their masses, these things also be made very clear. So when you write a personal account, there is a fear that you may not have enough space left for clarifying these things. So you have to strike the right balance. But yes, you can narrate in the way you like as long as science is not compromised.
Okay, sir. So now moving to the next session, because we are getting queries related to submission guidelines and other thing also. And after that, we will
The
take.
question I am seeing here,
Yeah.
is any experimental data related to my research be included in the popular story writing in Avsar? That depends upon the understanding between you and your guide. In principle, it is possible, but if sometimes there is something which could be of commercial value or which you are planning to patent, then I think you should avoid that. But it's best to discuss with your guide.
So we'll move to the next session, in which my colleague Dr. Gaurav Jain is there. So he's going to show what is the guidelines, what is the limits of the word limits for submitting article, where they can submit. So over to Dr. Gaurav Jain, please.
Thank you, Bharat sir. Am I audible? Okay, let me share the screen. So, hello friends, this is the Avsar website. This is avsar-gst.in, and you can find all the details regarding Avsar webinar, regarding submission, regarding results on this website. So I will show you this menu. From this menu, you can see all the related informations like Avsar awards, related workshop related information, resource kit, and other informations. And you can find these are the feature of the websites: Avsar awards, category, selection criteria, guidelines, workshop, and publication and resource kit. So this is previous 2 years detail. This is the category. There are two categories of Avsar award. One is for PhD scholars and one is for postdoctoral fellows. You can see the selection criteria and view the evaluation matrix also. How we are going to evaluate your article. These are the guidelines which you have to follow while writing your story. This is again the workshop section. Here you will find the forthcoming workshops. This is Avsar in Media. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. In YouTube, you will find all these lectures. We will upload all the lectures by expert on Avsar YouTube channel. Yeah, this is the resource kit. Here you will find all the articles, awarded articles, previous year awarded articles, and some sample research stories, and some references and presentations from experts. So we will upload all the presentation in this section. This is publication section. In this section, you will find a book, downloadable book, where you will find all the articles with the author detail. This is 2018 book and this is 2019 book. And 2020 book is under process. We will upload it soon. So let me show you the registration process. For registration and submitting your story, you have to click on this link and first you have to sign up. So this is the sign up form. It will ask the basic details. And once you fill the form, you can sign up from here. I have created one for this only. So when you sign up, then you have to log in. Yeah. Once you log in, you will see your name on the top right corner. And you will find two links. This is a webinar registration link. And this one is for submit your story. When you click on submit your story, you will find certain questions it will ask, like, have you earlier submit your story? Wait a minute. Yeah, it will ask, have you earlier submit your story? And if I say yes, then it will ask the reference number and title of your story. Are you an awardee? If you are an awardee, then you will not able to enter your detail. So only those candidates who applied last year and not awarded can apply. So here I will select no and click on submit your story. So this is the detailed form for submission of your story. So again, it will ask the basic details, your qualification, your Aadhaar number, date of birth. And in this section, you need to upload your image of your Aadhaar card. Again, your PhD details, your supervisor details. And in this area, you need to attach your story in doc format, MS Word doc format. The word limit for your story is 1000 to 1500 words. And these are, in this area, you need to enter your keywords related to your story so that it can be searchable. Like you have filled the form, but you don't want to submit right now, then you can save your data. Once you preview and submit, then you are not able to change anything. So remember, fill the form and save your data. And once you are ready with your story, you just attach your story and submit it. So this is very basic form. So any question related to this? Bharat sir?
So there was question like how the word count is being taken. Word count to kar rahe hum log. So we are taking from Word, MS Word only.
Yeah, we are taking from MS Word only. That's why we are asking for MS Word file.
And one query was there for plagiarism. So we do the plagiarism check. So there is no need to take the plagiarism report. You need not to submit your plagiarism report. So now thank you, Dr. Gaurav. Now we will move again.
Bharaji, one question. This is the question: is the title word is included in that word limit, or it should be counted separately? Because this is the one question by one of our participants. Yeah,
You see,
Gaurav,
in
can
the
you
form
reply to
it is
that?
signed- Sir,
The title. Suppose my title is for 10 to 20 words. So will it be counted within the limit of 115, or it should be in addition to that?
no, we have given separate column for title.
Title.
So
Okay.
there is no need to write your title in the story. You can write it in the form only.
Form only. So that means it is not included in that.
No, if you write it in your doc file, then it will include. The
Okay.
system will include. But if
So
you
it is
write it,
that means it is a word of caution for all the participants. If your word limit is increasing, don't write your title with your story. Use that space which is given for writing the title. Okay, don't
See,
repeat your title in your main story. That is the,
this
I
is the
think,
manuscript area.
yeah.
You can write your title in this column.
Okay.
Here you can write your title. So if you write your title in this column, then there is no need to write it in your doc file. But if you have the word limit, then you can write it there also.
Okay.
So thank you. And Nautiyal sir.
My video has to be started from your end.
Just 1 minute, sir. Nautiyal sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can start your video.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we have Nautiyal sir again, and our senior colleague Dr. BK Tyagi is also there. So I would request, there are some queries specifically to you, sir. Sir, can you please explain on not to glamorize a scientist?
Okay. Normally, you would read stories. You must have read stories in your childhood. Then Newton was sitting under the apple tree, and he realized the theory of gravitation. Similarly, you might have read that Kekulé was just dozing off near a fire, and he dozed off, and he imagined that there were snakes dancing in front. The tail of the snake was in the mouth of another snake, and so on. And that is how he arrived at the structure of a benzene ring. Now, these are stories, fine, but this does not clearly tell about the process which goes on in the mind of the scientist before he reaches a conclusion or gives a theory. It trivializes science, whereas the fact is that Newton could arrive at his theory of gravitation because he was thinking about it for years together. He must have observed many things. He must have thought about many things, calculated, observed, and then he could reach at this conclusion. So when we, particularly the people with background in science, are writing about these stories, we should not glamorize that this happened in a flash. In research, things don't happen in a flash. There is a lot of background work, and then there is a conclusion which might happen in a second. But behind that, there is a long process of constant thinking. And people who are not from science background or not from research background, they don't understand that, and they try to glamorize it. Similarly, similar is the case of Kekulé. Kekulé had been thinking about the structure of benzene for a very long time. And then as he was half asleep and half awake, his subconscious mind was constantly working, and he was able to put things in a proper framework. and he could conclude that this was a structure. And of course, the snake holding in his mouth the tail of the next snake and so on. This helped him, but this was not the only thing behind the long discovery. So we must talk about the travails and tribulation of the scientists. Don't glamorize it and say that you can sit in an armchair very comfortably and all of a sudden a bright idea will flash in your mind and you will make a discovery. That doesn't happen. Research most of the times happens incrementally. Somebody has done something, you increase it a little bit. Once in a blue moon, once in 100, there is an idea, which is a quantum change, which is quantum jump above the previous discovery. This is what I mean by not glamorizing the scientific research.
And sorry, sir, there is a one aspect, like we have debated on this aspect many times, whether Newton was sitting under a tree, apple tree, but it is not mentioned anywhere in in all that authentic documents. So this is only a hearsay, or you can say, uh, I mean, like a sometime like untruth is repeated so many times that it start appearing as a truth. It is not so. I mean, it is so in this case because it is not supported by any literature. Newton, got the idea of gravity by sitting under the tree. It's not like that. As Dr. Nautiyal said, a lot of thinking process has gone. Then only means like this, this
The
law of
gravitation.
gravity. Yeah. So.
But many people believe that law of gravitation was discovered or found or proposed in our country. And that person was also sitting under a tree. But unfortunately, it happened to be a coconut tree. And the coconut fell on his head. So he never lived to tell the story.
Good.
So, one query was there about math articles, how to write the mathematic principles and its deliverables or methods in proper way.
I think writing on mathematics is perhaps one of the most difficult things because things here are abstract. But you can always, or in many cases, you can relate your mathematics to some real life situation. In fact, much of the algebra today in mathematics is about the real life situation. They say about that there is a queue in front of a railway station platform or in front of a ticket counter, and what should be the rate of change supplying the ticket and increase in the number. All such questions are there now in mathematics. In statistics, sometimes it becomes difficult, but then again, you can have real life situations. You can sometimes include a little bit of humor. There is a saying, "Hisab kitab jo ka tyo, mera kunwa duba kyon." And then you can narrate the story. There was a person with a family of a total number of 4. They wanted to cross a river. The average height, the mathematician, he was a mathematics teacher, he calculated the average height of his family members. It turned out to be 3 feet because there were 2 very young kids. He himself was 5.5 feet, wife was about 5 feet, and 2 very young children. And then he measured the depth of the river, and the depth of the river turned out to be 2.5 feet. So he decided to cross the river with all of them, and the young children died. So to explain to people what is the meaning of average or what is the meaning of medium, one has to use such examples to say that average means the other values will be scattered around this, but will not be exactly this value. The average can be 2.5 feet or 3 feet, but individual numbers could be above this or below this. This is one part. Most important thing is whatever mathematics you are trying to tell, you must imagine or find out the physical meaning of that mathematics. And in mathematics, there will always be a physical meaning. It is possible that in your write-up or in your article or in your talk, you have to spend 80% of the time in creating that background so that people understand the significance of your work. This can happen, but I think this is worth it. You can create the background, you can explain why for example, you have done an experiment or some calculations, with computer or something, and you have found value of pi up to the, let us say, 23rd place of decimal. So pi equal to 3.1416, blah, 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 blah. Now to a common man, it does not mean which number appears in the 23rd place. But this will have implication somewhere in the real world, in your calculation, the amount of area which you calculate, the amount of concrete you fill in certain place. Of course, at 23rd place, it may not matter. But if it makes any change in the physical world or in your calculation in going to the space, in orbits, calculating the length of the orbit or the area of the orbit, then you say that this is the physical change this makes, and we will not be making this error. If you explain to people the physical meaning of your mathematical concept, then people will appreciate it, even if you have to spend 80 to 90% of your talk in giving that background.
Okay, sir. Yeah, are you? It's audible now.
How to unmute? Yeah. Now.
Yeah. Look, what Dr. Nautiyal is saying, you have to, like whenever we are doing a research, we have to find a problem. Okay, and that problem has like because of there is a background to that problem, and we are trying to give a solution to that problem. So if that background is explained, then it is not necessary to give the mathematical equation, because you know there is a mathematical use of in constructing this Eiffel Tower. So relating that equation is giving that equation is not important, but giving the reference of Eiffel Tower, the mathematics which was used is like you are already captivated your audience by starting your you know story with this. So this can be done. And also there is a one question, the level of terminology which we have to use. So for practical or operational reason, what as Dr. Nautiyal said, don't presume too much, but some presumption has to be there. So a person who has you know done his science up to 10th or 12th level, and whatever the terminology used in that books like fungus and fungi, they are already known to people: nucleus, cell, and potential, kinetic energy. These kinds of words, definitely you can use that. But also recently I saw one this DART. This is what NASA is trying to destroy a asteroid in the space itself. So and there are a lot of stories on that, on this technological mission, where the technological capability of destroying asteroid in the space itself. So they have not used any technical jargon in that. Very simple. How the what kind of what amount of kinetic energy is required, with what with the size of you know any asteroid, so that it should either to change the direction of that asteroid or to break it into such parts that it should not affect disturb the earth, you know. So this was the story, and it was the backup of that was highly technical, but to catch the imagination of the people, the story was built up. If a asteroid is coming, it may, and the size is so big that it can you know cause such a great damage, and giving a reference to earlier mass extinction and all that. So there is no need to go into that detail. And and also sometimes a situation is created by the media. Those terminology are already known to the people, especially like fungus. Now because of black fungus, everybody know now about this fungus. So you can use that public memory also to be keep in mind. So to what extent they can know, and wherever you feel, then you can, with the help of analogy, you can explain that technical term.
Okay, one
So
very
you can
review article.
that benchmark the 12th standard NCERT books, what we presume. Yeah.
Review article is considered or not. So as per the format, review article is not accepted, or you need not to tell your story, how you become a researcher or a scientist, or postdoctoral fellow. So we need only the research, what you are doing in your lab. So Ankur Gupta has raised their hands. I will ask. Yeah, Ankur, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
So actually, I wanted to ask, when we write about some applied science-based stories, for example, there is an energy crisis and we are working on that. Suppose we are making some batteries which can last longer, or we want to treat cancer, we are making drugs. So these things are like applied and the audience can really easily relate it. But whenever we are doing some fundamental science, specifically my case, so the fundamental science is, it's very hard to directly relate to the audience. So then how to convince the audience that my research is really very important and you all should notice that. So how to convey my research story to the general audience?
Nautiyal sir.
Yeah. Can you give an example of your fundamental work? Just an example.
Okay. So, okay. So, for example, neurotransmission. So, neurotransmission happens where the neurons talk to each other, and this is how our brain functions, and we all know that. So, in that aspect, there are now, okay. So, in that aspect, there are various research trying to understand fundamentally how the neurotransmission mechanism happens. Okay. So, suppose this is the fundamental thing, and it doesn't directly relate to some applied thing. Okay, if you understand how the neurotransmission happens, it may help you to reveal various diseases, but not very specific. For example, a particular cancer, we may or we may not know whether that particular information is going to treat a cancer. So, in that aspect, how do we convince the audience?
I think if it's a research paper, everything which is given in the research paper doesn't have to be communicated to people. But related to this, for example, neurotransmission also is very close to the computer. The difference between, you can start with the difference between working of human brain and computer. In case of human beings, we are doing parallel processing. The speed of individual process is not that fast, but we are doing parallel processing, and therefore our brain works very fast. So computer is directly related to the brain. In case of a neurotransmission, as I said, sometimes some disease can happen which can affect this. You can always talk about what affects these neurotransmissions, their speed, or when this neurotransmission stops. So this disease can happen in some people. So even if this is something as fundamental as this, what you may be doing a very small part of this whole thing, but this whole thing is there and yours is a small part. So always tell them about the whole thing so they're able to visualize the whole thing. Then you say that this is where, for example, if you have to talk about a cog or a screw or a bolt, by itself, it may not mean much. But when you tell them that this is holding this whole chair together, then it becomes important. So to give a perspective to your work, this depends upon your ingenuity. And I personally feel that howsoever fundamental the work is, at some stage, it would be applied, or at least it belongs to some field. So instead of talking only about your research, you talk a lot about brain, you talk a lot about neuro transmission. You also talk about some experiments which show that it's only in the early stage that neurons are formed. You can tell them how they can imagine what is the length of the neuron. You can tell them about the experiments, for example, done in the mice, that even in a little bit later, it was a paper, I think 2 or 3 years ago in Nature, that the neurons can grow even in slightly older mice. This is very contrary to what is believed, that neurons are only developing in the early stage. So such tidbits of information from here and there, and then this in this whole canvas where your work fits in. If you tell that, you can, I think, always make your talk very interesting.
And sir, the other thing is that, like, in fundamental research, like, we are discovering new knowledge which was not known earlier, but there is a background to that, and adding that knowledge how the people or a particular target group will be benefiting by knowing that information. Even in future also, as you said, it may turn into a applied aspect or come out with a technology or a product which can help, so these like entire storyline has to be built up, because it remind me a very important interesting quote by Albert Einstein. You tell, if you cannot tell about your research to your grandparents, that means you have not understood your own research. Sorry to, I mean, this is just for humor. So I think uh, try to talk to your friends and your parents to tell them about their research. Sometimes we feel very how they people will understand, but anyway, science and technology is for the welfare of the human society. So how this your research would add the would be contributing towards the welfare of the people. You, if you start thinking on those lines, I think your story will be complete.
Okay, Dr. Tyagi has given a very bright idea. What I would suggest is about your research, you try talking to your mother, your brother, your sister, or somebody, and then they will ask you some questions.
Yes.
Whenever you write an article or when you give a talk, you include those questions in your presentation and answer those questions, because that is what a common man would be willing to know. And once you have done that, I think after your talk, they would be much more knowledgeable than before.
Thank you, sir. Nirmala. Salim.
I think they have left.
No, Nirmala, you can ask.
Yeah, Nirmalya is now ready.
Or Salim.
Nirmalya is not audible. She's asking if she's audible.
No,
She's on mute.
She's on mute. She's muted.
So
Nirmalya,
please
you are
unmute.
muted. Therefore, we can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself. Or is there some central control which is?
No. So meanwhile, Salim, you can ask your question.
Yes.
Salim.
Am I audible, sir, now?
Yeah, Nirmala.
Nirmal Chakravarti is saying, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, the two questions I have to ask, sir. Number one is, sir, can I put the my affiliation, university affiliation, research affiliation? Actually, is the research affiliation is counted under the word limits, or it will be put it in the separate format in the form? Number one question. Is the research affiliation will be counted in the word limits?
Research affiliation.
Affiliation.
You need
under
not to write your name, your institute name. No information, no affiliation is required. So
Okay.
it will kill your word limit. So please write.
Yes,
Focus on the story.
So actually, where I have to write this application in the format, right? Sir?
In the form itself. In the form itself.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And my another question is, can I include some schematic diagram, like some pictures, etc., to make my research topic more relevant towards the common
What
people?
answer?
No, he's asking, I think, about you are talking only about Avsar or
Yes,
any
sir.
article?
Yes, sir.
This is
No,
only
sir. Avsar, sir.
Avsar.
Yes, sir.
Generally, we haven't seen diagrams and photographs in the articles, but I think Dr. Bharat is a better person to.
Yeah, sir. So you are allowed to give your images relevant to your story. There is no restriction.
Yes, sir.
So you
But
can.
that should
It should not be overloaded with images. Irrelevant images should not be there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Only the short images which will be relevant to my work, actually.
no. That should not be a technical.
No, sir. Not technical. That is a common people understandable.
Yes.
Picture.
That you can include.
And that
Okay,
that does not affect the word limit.
Yes,
It
sir.
will
Okay.
not.
Thank you.
It will not.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Salim. Salim, you can ask your question.
Yeah, Mr. Salim, you can ask your question.
Again,
We
one
are not
query
able to
from
hear you.
Ankur.
Yeah. Hmm.
Is oversimplification a problem while writing? How to draw a boundary?
Okay, a very good question. Actually, sometimes we dilute so much that it's distorted. So I always say that we should dilute, but we should not distort it. So this is a judgment. Yeah, nobody can tell you where to draw a line. In case you are confused, you always give the extreme thing and then try to explain it in a simple manner. But nobody can tell you how much how much simplification is allowed. Always the basic principle of teaching is you start from the familiar to the unfamiliar. You start with some unfamiliar thing, like if this is a horse, the theoretical physicists start with a sphere. And they start with a sphere and say that this is a horse. And then they start explaining that in this sphere, on one end, there is a tail. In this sphere, in the middle, there is a flattening. At the other end, again, there is a pointed thing. So this comes closer to the description of a horse. So that is how you have to start. You start with something which is a little bit vague, and then go on putting or assigning constraints so that it comes closer and closer to the real picture. But it will not come exactly like the original picture in every case.
So there is one query for, do we need to add references as per the standard format of Hausser, or in general for popular science article, references are not required as we do in the research stories. So Darshan, you can ask your question. Darshan. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, Darshan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, I would like to know that is there any limitations on total number of words that we can use in while writing our story?
Minimum is 1000 words, maximum is 1500 words.
1500s.
Minimum is 1000 also. Minimum you
Okay.
should have 1000 words, a maximum of 1500 words.
Okay, sir. Understood.
So a few more queries we can take. Sir, Nautiyal sir, you have time?
Yeah.
A few more query we can take. So Dr. Manzoor Mir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
I
Good
want to ask
afternoon.
that, yes, if I have some PhD scholars enrolled with me, can they write, are they eligible, and can they write regarding their own research topics? For example, the societal impact of a combination therapy in breast cancer, or somebody is working on a tuberculosis relevance to the society. Can they write the proposal for their story regarding their own research topics?
One care they have to take is their research should also be an integral part of the article. I mean, they cannot write just a popular science article based on others' work. Their own work should be an essential input to this writer. Am I right, Dr. Bharat?
Yes, sir. Certainly, yes.
Because the idea is to encourage people to write about their own science.
Okay, sir. So that means the experimental part can be included in that.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Shrestha.
Sir, my question is, we have to write it in a form of story, or like we write a research article like that? I mean,
No research
storytelling,
article. No research article.
and we can include the images, like the characterization images also that we have,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
okay, fine, sir.
Salim. Salim.
If Mr. Salim is not there, then Sharmishtha Nanda has raised hand.
Yeah. So I will ask Sharmishtha.
Hello.
Yeah.
Very good afternoon, sir.
Yes, you are audible.
Very good afternoon, sir. Sir, actually, I am doing my PhD in a state university. I have done my coursework long back, and currently I got registration in 20 January. So, and I am also submitted the story, but it is not 2 years exactly. So, will it be considered or not?
So you have completed your coursework, but you have
Yeah.
not come to a
No,
conclusion.
no. After completion of the coursework, I got registration.
Okay.
So from that registration to till now, it is not 2 years.
It means you have not started your research actually.
No. I started my research. I have publication also. But after completion of the coursework, I got the registration in January 2020. And from that time, I'm doing the research. So from 20 January to this, it is not 2 years. It is not completing 2 years.
Actually, purpose of putting the 2 years of barrier, because generally in the first year of PhD, or initial years of PhD, researchers are only carrying out the literature review and coursework. So they have not generally started their research work and they have not completed to any conclusion.
But sir, since I'm in a state university and guide was not assigned to me, that's why after completion of the coursework, I got some break, and I joined in somewhere.
You can put your
But
registration date. You can put your registration date whenever you have started your coursework, and you can submit.
But I have submitted already with the registration date.
So you have submitted already, na?
Yeah.
So what is the issue then?
Issue is 2 years is not there.
He says
The
that
duration is
okay.
What is demanded is 2 years of experience, but from her registration, 2 years are not complete.
That is
Since she started research, it's more than 2 years.
Okay, not an issue.
Not an issue. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Perumalla Talluri.
Sir, very good afternoon, sir. Very nice lecture hearing from you, sir. Sir, I'm doing currently postdoctoral fellowship at NDRI, sir. My queries are 2 queries, sir. Can I use the data that is already published in a flowchart, something like that, for the story? And second question is, if it is too scientific, can we use colloquial languages to address this, like microRNAs and small RNAs? This is very uncomplicated for reading for a novice person. So, and this is the second question, sir. And the third question is, sir, should we should we put objectives also of our study in a point-wise manner, or should we write in a overall single point?
Okay. The first thing that you asked was about the flow chart. Okay. So I think flow chart will not be unless it's doing helping a lot in explaining what you want to say. Don't use it, but if
sorry to interrupt you, sir. It is not the flow chart, but the data charts of flow. That is a graph, something like that.
Yeah, if you can explain that graph so as to be intelligible to a common person, you can use that. Or you can also use it simplified form, because sometimes what you get from the machine is in a it gives a lot of information which is not understandable to the common man. So you can make a simple chart out of that, just X and Y axis, and that chart and indicate there what it means.
Okay, sir.
Because from the original experiment, there will be grids, there may be a lot of other things.
No, sir. Actually, it is regarding the data. For example, if I want to tell a milk production during last century, can I portray such kind of graphs in that story or not?
I think Dr. Bharat is a better person to answer, but I think if it is helping to explain your point, then it should be okay.
The author are best judge also.
Yes, yes. And also, I think our researcher has to come out from the mold of as a researcher, because this is a program to make you a science journalist. Okay, so you just think in terms of not writing only your progress report and submitting into your guide, but now you are telling about your research to the common people. So how much they can comprehend, they can understand, you just try to think from that perspective and write your story. There is no hard and fast rule, and it depend on how you structured your own thing and in what way you would like to narrate it. Just but don't keep in mind that you are talking to your peers. No, you are talking to people who don't know anything about your work, or they know only science up to 10 standard. So with those terminology, how you can communicate in an interesting way that it make a interesting reading for them, and at the same time they are knowing about your research. So challenge is this. So whether you want to include those graph and all that, or in what way, or in a other pictorial way, or this is up to you, how you beautify your article so that it attract more people. It depend on you.
A common man is not very comfortable with graphs. So if you can describe it properly, like you say up to 1950, the milk production in the country was increasing very little. But after the formation of Anand, or whatever way you want to say, from this year, it started increasing a little bit, but a big jump came in the year 1900 and such, or 2000 such and such. And now it has become almost double of what it was in 1900 and so such year. So that will be more comprehensible to a common person than graphs. For us or you, graph is not a problem. We can always read them. But if this is something which can be beautifully described in words and makes the meaning clear, then I think it's better.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another point that what I asked you according the objectives, sir, should we enlist them or should I complete in a single sentence? That would be fine.
Sentence is okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Parul.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm a NPDF working working on a project that is funded by SERB TST itself. So my question is regarding the figure which we can include in our story. So should it be very formal or informal? Because I have read some of the past stories, and there I have find out that most of the those stories have a figure that is a informal kind of, like some comic characters are there. And so what is the best way to make a figure and to express the story?
The figure should be as simple as possible so that a common reader can also understand. Don't, I mean, as you gave an example that somebody has put a comic figure. If it's essential, fine. Use these figures and all, and in a very simple manner. Don't make them complicated, but don't unnecessarily include comical characters also.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Raja.
One and all. I'm a research scholar in SLIDE in FD department, and my query belongs to the Parliament query. What kind of picture we can insert and draw to make the story more understandable? And is there, we can like draw, we can insert something. So I want to ask the same thing regarding to the Parliament queries.
See, as Tagiji has said, you are the author is the best just to judge the audience. You have a target audience who are common people. If you are making drawings which require technical knowledge to understand them, then please avoid that. If a common person who has studied science up to 10th or 12th can understand your figure, then it's okay. But usually use those photographs or figure which are essential. And they're very clearly understandable. Don't give complicated graphs.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nadia.
Sriniketan.
Respected elders, good afternoon. So my question, I had two queries. One is, can we give disclaimers at the end of the story, for example, as using some asterisks or some star marks to show some other additional notes at the end of the, after the conclusion of the story? One thing. The second thing is, suppose there are certain other story, we haven't completed our research. So we have some other trials that are left. Ultimately, the application of the research would also count when judges might score the stories, rate the stories. So can we put some disclaimers saying that some other research, some other studies have to be, further studies have to be conducted in the research, and that might not affect the application of the story as such. I mean, application of the research as such.
What you are saying is that you are doing some research, you have reached some tentative conclusions.
Yes.
And these results might get revised later. Is this what you are saying?
No, sir. No, sir. Suppose, for example, when some of us are working on microorganisms, we might also have some human trials that can be later on conducted, or trials on rats that could be later on conducted. The results that we have already written in the story is final, but some more research has to be conducted. So can we put them as disclaimers that some research, because that might also sometimes that might also reflect that the application of the research itself is a problem, then it is not conclusive as such that way.
No, whatever you have conclusively proved, that you write, and you can say that the further experiments could be conducted on rats or human beings, that you can always put, but keep it in the body of the article.
Yeah.
Don't put as a footnote or something.
Yes.
Put it in the body of the article. You simply say that this is what we have concluded. And in future, more experiments can be done on humans and on rats and on humans and so on. And then the results could be put on a more firm footing. That you can always say, but not as a footnote. Keep it in the main body of the article.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Shivam.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Actually, I have a question. I'm a student from mathematics background, research scholar. My query is that can we include? Can I include differential equation or dynamical system of differential equations or mathematical modeling? These terminologies in my story.
Terminology, yes. I mean, you can use the term differential equation. But if you are writing for the common person, you have to first explain what you mean by differential equation, its physical meaning. By differentiation, okay, you mean incremental change or the change, right?
Yes.
For example, you say dr by dt, change in r with respect to t.
Okay. Fine. I can understand. And my next question is that, sir, in my PhD tenure, I have studied in two branches of mathematics, mathematical fluid dynamics and mathematical modeling also. So in my paper, previously I have asked that I have published some research article in both these topics. So I want to write a story based on this mathematical modeling portion. Okay. So in time of writing, in time of filling the form, there is a mention that total research publication. So sir have already answered that you have to mention total research publications, not only the specific mathematical modeling portion part. But there is also another part of the details of supervisor. But my supervisor is from mathematical fluid dynamics background. So can this affect the evaluation of my story?
This is just information which we are asking in the form.
Okay.
Just for our record and information. This is not going to. We are only evaluating our story, not your biodata. So we are going to evaluate a story.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So certificate will be issued to workshop participants. Dr. Gaurav. So we are going to send a feedback link, and you need to fill the feedback link, and certificate will be generated and sent to you. So with this, I think we should conclude. Nautiyal sir.
There are quite a few questions on
Q&A.
Q&A.
Okay.
Q&A.
Okay. So title of the story. Please advise on the title of story.
The title of the story should be catchy, as I mean, if you are writing the physical meaning of the differential equations on the 19 and that kind of lengthy titles are not welcome. You think about the physical meaning of your subject. And then, for example, if you're writing about tea leaves, the chemistry of tea leaves, then if you write the chemistry of tea leaves, this is a very, very common title. But you put it in a little bit poetic or artistic manner so that it gives somebody clues that he's going to learn a little bit more about tea leaves. Then this is okay. But don't put the name of the chemical or name of the molecule in the title, because that will not interest a common man. Instead of, if you say, the fragrance from the Nilgiris, finally scientists understand, something of that kind. So that will be more interesting to the audience. Then there is one question which says that, can we write like a journey from story of idea generation and journey with research idea? Like initial part, a story, how we arrive to research problem and how curiosity has been ignored. Yes, you can do that, but that should not dilute the science part, and that should not compromise on the space given to the science part. But yes, this will make the introduction will make people interested in this story. Second question by Parul T. Can I include a figure about cycle of integrated gasification process using block diagram? If this is easily understandable, I think one can, Dr. Bharat,
yeah,
the diagram can be included.
Diagram can be included, but it should substantiate the story in popular format.
Okay. Next is by Kriti Sahai. I haven't started my experiment, but I have planned to do it within months. So will that story be eligible? No, if you have not done the work. Yes. If you have not done the work, you cannot report it. But if there is something, for example, in building up that gasification plant, if you came across some problem and you solve it indigenously, that can make a good science story you can try. Which means you have done some experimental work. And that is interesting. That tells people about your work, then that is okay. You can have a try. Ankur Gupta asks, sometime while explaining the background, a large amount of story is covered, and then you pose your role and question later. Is it necessary to pose question in the starting 2 paragraphs? It's not necessary, but your test should be that what keeps, without compromising sign, what keeps the reader glued to your story? Whether this will be by putting it in the beginning or putting it in the middle or at the whichever stage, that you decide. People should remain glued to your story. That is the most important point. Can we say our stories in dialogue format? Yes, you can do that. So I have little of my story with a question mark. Is it okay? That is fine. Can pilot study
here about the dialogic form, because the earlier one story who was adjudged it was in the as a prize winning entry, it was in a dialogic form. So don't take this as an ideal model for that. Because if your content is such, then it's okay. Many times, because many of our participants thought like this is the only way of telling your story. This is just one format. It's not necessary that you should follow that dialogic form of narration, because then sometimes it becomes very monotonous. Only 2 people are talking. So it could be good for the radio talk, but when you are writing it, I think it should be trying some other format. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Sorry to interrupt you in between.
No, I think it's perfectly fine. In between, you can use dialogue. But if you really come up with something where the dialogue, for example, between 2 persons is really so engrossing, then nobody will object to that. But that's not very easy.
Yeah, so, because like for 2 to 3 minutes, it's okay in a total length. But if it's go beyond that, then it becomes
become boring.
Yeah.
But again, author's judgment.
Yeah.
If you're confident it's going to be very interesting, give it to a few people, let them read it and take their advice, opinion.
So thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time. It was a good session and quite interactive also. So for any query, I have written the mail ID in the chat box. It's connect.avsar@gmail.com. You can write to us. We'll try to reply it as soon as possible. So one last question, how can I write story about my clinical study, which is mostly subjective and patient-based? Is there another way to write a story except a case study?
This can be, in fact, if it's clinical and if you are dealing with the patient, then the human angle comes in. So I think that makes the story more interesting. But your science part, I don't know, just by the clinical thing, can you bring out the science? But otherwise, Dr. Tyagi can also comment. If there is a human element there, that makes the story all the more interesting. You are muted.
There was a story which there was in a patent. It was entire thing was very good, but the story was not disclosing the hardcore science part of it, which is the basic of the backbone of the entire program. So even if it has a issue of the patent, even then that can be circumvented in a very nice way. You can tell the whole thing without telling the essence. So it is a you say, because this is a patent issue, so for this cannot be disclosed as the by some condition, you can say, is always there. But if it's going to if it's a story, as Dr. Patel is saying, of a human interest, I think how it will be benefiting the target group. What was the difficulty which they were facing earlier? By introduction of this tool, technology, or whatever is that, how they are going to benefit it. But because of the commercial consideration, the actual the part, because here you are telling the earlier science which is already known, and your methodology also, except your product specification, you are not telling. So this way, I think it can be done very easily without telling those technical details of your product or your knowledge. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Natyal sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for inviting.
So with this, we are concluding this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank
you, Dr. Bharat, Dr. Gaurav, and of course, Tyagi ji.
Thank you all.
Nice.